All right, guys, I want to talk about adding more value to your soil. I always do videos where it's soil improvements. I am up here in section 1 today, which is in its third year of restoring, and there's still a glaring problem, even though the nutrition level is getting much better, is Rock City. So there's rocks all over the place, and you can see how rocks have affected the look of the plot. There's a lot of places that are really thin. Germination rates are very poor. It's just mainly because the rocks are overloading the soil space around them. And whatever does come up is having a hard time growing because they're sandwiched between so many rocks. So your roots cannot spread out and gather nutrients like they are supposed to. Rocks actually cause smaller deer. And I have been working in this plot for a very long time, picking rocks out by hand or taking a rake and trying to resurface the plot. But when I do that, I usually find that is a temporary solution to my problem. The only real way for me to fix this is to rent a piece of equipment, and I think one of them's called a rock hog, and there's others out there that can get down in this soil a little bit and pull these rocks out of the ground and spread the soil back over the ground as it goes across. That is really the only way that I can really help this soil out. Other than building new soil and try to bury as many rocks as I can in fresh, rich, nutrient dirt. So over time, as the soil does build up, I can supply more dirt or soil space for these plants. And the same thing happened when I was doing section 3 down there at the bottom. I had lots of rocks in there the size of basketballs or bigger, and I haven't found one that big in there now in 7-8 years. And I did lots of manual picking in order to achieve that. That is a lot of work, guys. And there's days out here where you really need to feel like you're dedicated if you're going to go that route. Manual rock picking takes a lot out of you, especially on hot summer days. Used to, when I was really picking a lot of rocks out down there, I would come out here in the winter time because my tonnage was so poor when it came to growing fall winter crops. I could actually see rocks laying on the ground, and most of my tonnage was barely above lip high. So I had all these rocks jutting out, and I'd come by, pick them up, get rid of them. And I'm kind of pretty much doing the same thing here. Is I need better planting space and I need better root space. A lot of rocks that I had removed up here were pretty darn close to the size of basketballs. There were one or two that were bigger than that, and I've already removed them. And the fact that they are out of the way and gone, there is germination rates improvements in here, and the growth rate of the plants has actually increased enough to where I can notice a difference. I still need to fertilize up here, but I'm going to wait till I do my spraying, which is very shortly, and I'll explain why I'm going to do that when I do the spray video. So for now, the biggest soil improvements is just simply getting what big rocks I can out of here and try to increase root space. See, like this rock here, that's taking up a lot of space, and there's your sun hemp plant that's been browsed off, but it's right next to a rock, so that sun hemp plant can't spread its roots. Now the rock is out of the way and can easily move into that space. And the same thing's down here. There's a lot of decent sized rocks down here on this end, and the more I can get out, the happier I am. Now, one general rule about rock picking when you're trying to create better soil here is if you're removing rocks and the rocks get bigger, you need to stop. So the further down you dig, the bigger they're getting. Do not continue anymore. You will have to just deal with the rocks you have, unless you want to rent some big equipment to have it removed. But these guys actually hinder the size of your deer. And the more of these you have in here, the harder it is to grow a better food plot along with better deer. So ever so slowly, I have been behind the scenes up here picking rocks, and that spot right here has actually improved quite a bit. I have removed probably a whole front end loader load of rocks right there. My next step as a big temporary fix when it comes to my fall blend, I'm going to take a rake and try to rake that off and create a dirt surface that'll work just long enough to get something going. But sometimes you have to really put in the labor if you want to do this. And I can see all kinds of future potential out of the soil. You just need to kind of bring it out. And hopefully here, after I do some more picking, maybe down the road I can actually rent one of those machines and see how much culling I can do out of this soil. It would help this place so much. But I'm actually getting good growth considering the sheer number of rocks that's in here. But that's just something I've had to deal with all my life on this farm. And then by the time you get down to the bottom flat right here on this hump, they disappear. It's like there's just a line of rocks, and then suddenly it stops and it becomes all clay soil out that way. But I am working on trying to improve the soil. So real quickly, doing a little weed removal, and there is some bacteria there. I can see it. This soil in the past has had hardly any bacteria in it, and I've been finding it a whole lot more as I'm working the ground and trying to revive it. Generations of farming have left the landscape barren. Especially, I mean, I'm not knocking old time farmers because they work 100 times harder than we do today. But the old methods was really killing the soil, and they had poor crop rotations after a while, and then they quit farming it. And you had to have a lot of land if you want to keep rotating it. And eventually, like this wood line up here used to be a cornfield well before I was born. There was only a handful of trees like this big oak. They left shade trees so they could take breaks, and they would plow that with a mule and a plow, trying to grow corn in there. The ground was so poor, they gave up after 2 or 3 years. There was just so many rocks in there, they couldn't hardly get nothing to grow. And that's the same issue we have out here in this soil. It doesn't like suddenly just bow up and stop. It just keeps coming on down this hillside because it is loaded with ridge rock. And that is why this ground has really had a hard time growing anything here. And the more of these I remove, the better we continue to get. So there's you a soil improvements video. Just one of the manual things I do to my plot. This may look kind of rough now, but things are about to change. That is probably one of the best looking radishes I've had up here in this area. Used to, they were about maybe a quarter of that size, and that's all I could hope for. I got some super tremendous looking buckwheat leaves right there. So I think this ground here is starting to turn the corner. And yes, I need to apply more fertilizer up here. It still needs some help, but eventually that will dissipate, just like all the other areas I've worked on. Just have to give it some time. All right, guys, I know it's a weedy looking plot right now, but that will change shortly. Have a good one.